Hey there. I finished my workday and thought, I just need to show up and record a podcast and just get it out there. And I'm going to do one on gratitude, and I was going to release this a few weeks ago, but I just needed to rest. And when you listen to the episode, you'll might understand why. I'm going to talk about my quirky things that I'm grateful for this year. And I'll give you just a hint. The first one was about the time that I ran away. Gratitude, it's the buzzword going around, and it really does change our attitude for the better. Some of us, though, feel a lot of pressure to be grateful, even in difficult circumstances, and that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today. Some pretty weird things that I'm grateful for this year, and I hope you will enjoy my perspective on some of them. But I did want to let you know I was taking a break in the Deliberate Decisions series that I'm doing, and episode 90 was the decision to find your flow. And whether you're a solopreneur, a woman in business, or just a person trying to find a rhythm in your life, you might want to check out episode 90. Episode 91 are the 3 deliberate decisions to make meaning in midlife. And my guest then, Lynn Galadner, just does an amazing job. She has written a book, Women of Valor, and even her latest book has just been released. So, without further ado, I will get on with my weird gratitude. This is Hillary Baggett, host of Hill Talks Momentum in Midlife, because that is what I care about, helping you get momentum in midlife. And it comes from a place that I have been there, so I know. I'm an occupational therapist turned entrepreneur after the age of 50, and I have such a heart to help and support women after the age of 40, 50, 60, and beyond. We're going to share some great stories. First, I'm grateful that I gave myself permission to take off the week of Thanksgiving and not release a podcast episode. I have several waiting in the wings to be edited. So the next thing I'm grateful for is not only letting go of the pressure to put out a podcast the week of Thanksgiving, even finding a word. Sometimes after certain ages, we just find it a little bit more difficult. Sometimes it's distractibility. Sometimes it's the busyness of life or the season. Sometimes it's everything that's going on, either in our home, in our mind, or in our world. So the important thing is to laugh about it. Oh, goodness. All right, I'm going to go back to January and say that I'm really grateful that I ran away. And I ran away to a monastery of Benedictine nuns. And no, they don't wear habits. And no, they don't wear the robes and cover their hair anymore. That is from very long ago. So I'm grateful that I gave myself permission to get away, to find some perspective, and to be in a very loving and nurturing environment. And the funny thing is that I was not expecting to receive the healing of some wounds from my childhood, growing up Catholic school, and some of the stern nuns there. So that was a really big part of being grateful. Now, while I was there, I did cry for days, and I'm grateful for the tears because so much of this year there was a shedding, more of like Niagara Falls, it felt like at times. But releasing the tears, the grief, pain, sadness, so much going on. I mean, could you be grateful for crying? Could you be grateful for running away after the age of 50? I'd definitely be curious. All right, let's just dive in. I said I'm going to tell you about, I'm just going to pick my top 4 of the weird things that I'm really grateful for after a really hard year. And I am fairly certain I am not the only one that would say, 2023 was hard because I have a lot of conversations with people every day, every week. And I know even for me personally, I went through some hard stuff. So I'm going to just dive right in. And I mentioned in the opener that I ran away this year. And I did. I started out January by running away to a monastery. And I'll tell you what I found in just a minute. The second thing I really committed to when I got back from running away to the commissary, that's a military grocery store. Oh my goodness. But a monastery. I decided to learn more about my ADHD, my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. What a terrible name for this, because it doesn't really do it justice. But I realized that I was not really managing my attention challenges. And it goes beyond attention. It goes into organizing, planning, initiating, so much more. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. My third thing is that I took a sabbatical. And I'm not a teacher. Most of us think, oh, okay, sabbaticals are for professors at universities. Sometimes people in a faith practice will take a sabbatical in order to work on a specific project. But I decided to give myself permission to take a big sabbatical, and I'll give you more details in just a minute. My last quirky thing to be grateful for, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to tell you just a little bit about me getting fired. And this has been very controversial on Instagram. Last week, I think there were 185,000 people viewing a 30-second reel about me sharing. And I didn't go into any details, and I won't go into too many details here, but I'm really grateful that I got fired. So I hope you'll learn, listen, and enjoy a little bit from this. I know I already started to talk a little bit about the time I ran away to the monastery. The full story would take far longer than anyone would really be interested in listening in a podcast format. But I wanted to give you a few more details. The fact is, about a year ago, I really just felt like I needed some time and space to myself. And as a woman in midlife, I just recognized that there was something weighing me down, and I wasn't exactly sure what it is. It's really easy to think that it's, well, the kids have gone off to college and the nest is empty, or some challenges in my personal relationship. But I wanted to give myself some time and space. So I took 5 days to go stay at a Benedictine monastery. I had researched for weeks places all over the country, and so many of them would charge $3,000, $5,000, and $10,000 for you to get 5 days away. Well, then a friend of mine said, Hillary, I want you to check out this place. Well, y'all, I'll tell you, it's less than 5 miles from my house. And together with my overnights, all my meals that I wanted, I also had access to a kitchen and could prepare meals. I got some Reiki treatments because one of the sisters is a Reiki master. I got spiritual direction, which I had never done before. And I was raised as a Catholic, and I couldn't even believe that I was taking this step to run away to this monastery because I had a lot of wounds from my childhood, from growing up Catholic, from going to Catholic school where the sisters were very, very strict. But I knew in my heart that this was the place for me to go. And by the time I made the call in early December, the monastery was shutting down for the Advent season, Christmas, New Year's, to the Epiphany, which is usually around January 6th, right? And so I went ahead and scheduled and booked it for when they reopened. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to show up. And I'm so glad I did. And I'll tell you far more details another time about some of the experiences there. Now, these nuns, they don't wear habits. They don't have to have short hair. They don't have to. All these things that a lot of us think of, oh, Catholic nuns, they just walk around praying. These are amazing, educated, fascinating women. They love sports. They love community. They do love prayer because part of their Benedictine tradition is praying 3 times a day. Now, not every sister shows up to pray at every of the 3 times, but I was invited as a retreatant, and it was really a blessing. So I'm glad I ran away because it was the beginning of finding myself. And sometimes we need to get out of our house, get out of our comfort zone, get out of our routines in order to re-engage and connect. So I'm glad I did. Next, I'm going to move on to my second. The week I returned from the monastery, actually, it was the same day, a family member said to me, "I think I have ADHD too." So I went into research mode and I joined an ADHD couples palooza hosted by the wonderful Linda Rogley, who is an ADD diva. She's a coach and knows so much about helping get the word out on what we can do to support people with ADHD. So I had been diagnosed after the age of 50, and I'm 53 now, so it's been a few years. But I really wasn't learning the aspects. I wasn't learning about treatment options. I wasn't learning about perfectionism, or it's really executive brain dysfunction, which is our frontal lobe, and it's our prefrontal cortex. And the executive functions that we have, planning, organizing, judgment, problem solving, time management. Oh, that's a huge one. I learned the term time blindness. It's when you get so involved in an activity that you totally get hyper-focused and you lose track of time, or you poorly estimate how long it's going to take for you to do something. Well, I really struggle in this area. So I've definitely dedicated a lot of 2023 to learning more about attention challenges. And I'm glad I did. In fact, I'm about to finish up my ADHD certification to use as an occupational therapist, as a professional, as a spouse, as a parent, and for me, because getting a diagnosis of something is not the end of the story. It's just the beginning. And there are some amazing podcasts out there that really highlight some strategies for dealing with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And just in case you're curious, hyperactivity can be physical. Like we often think of little boys running around that can't sit still. Well, it looks different for girls and women, and it's very different in women over 50. And it's the fastest growing kind of set of people that are getting diagnosed with ADHD, women over 45. Some of it has to do with our hormones. Some of it has to do with we didn't get diagnosed. And sometimes it's our busy brain, which is very different from the physical running around. But if you have so many tabs open, whether it's on your computer or in your brain, or all of these mental sticky notes, and you can't seem to get them in order or to quiet things down to focus and complete a task, you might want to do a little quick inventory and talk to a healthcare professional to get the diagnosis. So I'm really grateful that I ran away to the monastery to find myself, to find my voice. I am grateful that I'm learning more about my executive brain dysfunction, attention deficit issues. And the third thing is I'm really glad that I took a sabbatical. And that was a time that I thought I was going to spend about 3 weeks overseas, and I was going to go back to Europe, and I wanted to be supportive of my daughter who was doing a medical shadowing program. But let's be honest, I had a bucket list of some places I wanted to go, and she was accepted to a program in Croatia, and I had about 6 places in Croatia I had not yet been. So I started the planning process with the idea in January, after I ran away to the monastery, after I started learning more about ADHD. And by early February, I had a full itinerary planned, and it had gone up to 6 weeks. And pretty soon it expanded to 10 and a half weeks. I know I know you can't imagine taking 10 and a half weeks off, but I wasn't on vacation the whole time. I'll tell you that. I was doing a lot of processing. I was allowing myself to feel feelings. I was fulfilling a dream of some places I wanted to go. I was able to take my daughter to visit our friends in Slovenia, which is one of the border countries of Croatia, so it wasn't too far. We were also able to go to Germany, where we lived for 8.5 years, and visit some friends. And it was a time of full circle moment to come back to visiting those places that we just loved and reconnecting, because that was a big, I get a little emotional thinking about it. That was a big time. That's where my kids went to most of their schooling in their lives, was in Germany. So we finished up the sabbatical in Norway, and I wanted to go visit a roommate of mine from school. And I said, I just was looking for some suggestions of what to do in Norway. And she said, well, Hillary, would your daughter want to house sit and pet sit? Because I'm a professor and I need to go back to the States to do something. And I said, oh, she's not available. But I raised my hand and said, I am. And that is how I spent over 5 weeks in Norway. And I learned so much about there's some good people in the world. It sounds like a crazy idea to go away for that long, but the doors just opened simply. And I'm so grateful that I took a step and walked through them. My fourth and final weird thing I'm grateful for was getting fired. So in July, I had been back from sabbatical for a few weeks, and a recruiter reached out to me online. And I don't answer recruiters or people that are just DMing me or sending me an email, but I answered this one. And we had a couple conversations, and I said, listen, I'll be honest, I'm not even looking for a job. I have just gotten back from a big set of time off. I am diving back into my work as an occupational therapist, as an entrepreneur for the Women's Midlife Network, figuring out what to do with our community. What do I want? And honestly, I just finished writing the rough draft of my first book that'll be coming out in 2024. And it happened pretty quickly. And by September 11th, I was at orientation. So from the idea to hiring process, it probably was really a 2-week process, but just the idea of reaching out and talking to the recruiter. But by the time I got hired, it was very, very fast. And in hindsight now, I had a friend who said, Hillary, do you know what love bombing is? Like with narcissists who give you so much attention, they give you everything that that you want, and you feel so special and so wanted. Well, she said, you were work bombed. You were work love bombed. And we don't know the details, but in less than 60 days, I was let go. And several people online on Instagram, I created that reel, and it's definitely, a lot of people have viewed it. A lot of people have commented. And I've been surprised that it's been such a hot topic of, were you really fired? Were you let go? Was it a business decision? This is, there's a lot of differences in it. Well, I was called up on a Friday, and I thought it was just a 60-day review of, hey, work better at this, do this. And I was asked, do you think you're a good fit for this company? Do you want to continue working with us? I was so caught off guard. I didn't know what to say. And so I tried to gather myself, and I just said, well, can I think about this over the weekend? I want to give myself some time to process. Well, by Tuesday, days later, I was just quite frankly told, it's not a good fit. We're letting you go. And I said, oh, okay. Do I need 2 more weeks to wrap things up? They said, nope, you're done tonight. And I was stunned. I had just come from a medical emergency with a patient that I had stayed with so that she was not alone. I was on the phone with her doctor, seeing if we were going to send her to an urgent care or an ER because of some blood pressure issues. And I was stunned. But here's where I'm grateful. This was a blessing in disguise. And whether or not I was a good fit for them, I know for a fact they were not a good fit for me. What I was promised in the recruitment process, in the interview, and in orientation was not what was delivered. Plain and simple. So, what I had to do actually was look back and discover what is it that made it feel so special to me. Was I feeling vulnerable? Was I wanting to see, could I get a full-time job at 53 when I hadn't worked full-time, getting paid as a therapist for over 20 years? And that kind of felt good. And they matched the salary for the pediatric work that I do. And I just wasn't listening to myself. So I'm really glad that I was able to accept it. And it was a blow. I mean, it definitely took me some days. My biggest question in the end to the people that fired me was, well, why didn't you just tell me on Friday and save me a weekend of thinking that I had a say in the matter? Or all the work that I did, working late Friday night and Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday. I give it my all. And that's just who I am. And realizing that some people are going to prioritize profit over people, and that's just not who I am. So I had to make some peace with that. And a month later, I can't believe that I was working full time for those weeks. And let me just say that in that 60 days, I also had 2 weeks where I had prearranged it before they hired me. I was going out to help my mother after surgery and attend my 35th high school reunion. And I simply said, I can start full time without a break late in October, or I can start September 11th, but I've got these 2 weeks that are already planned out. My mom was having a surgery, and it was such a gift to be able to be there and support her. And she's doing great, by the way, just in case you're wondering. So these are kind of my 4 weird things that I did in 2023. And I ran away to the monastery. And those Benedictine nuns, oh my goodness, I just love them so much. They helped me begin to find my voice in January. And I can say that by December, I feel far more confident in speaking up for myself. I'm glad I'm learning more about my attention deficit issues and how they affect me, my work, my family. I'm really grateful I took that sabbatical. Oh my goodness, I could almost do that every year, but that was a long time to be away. And again, I'm glad I got fired. What is your weird thing to be grateful for? I'm so glad you listened. I hope you'll reach out. Write me a note. Write a review. I'm not joking about this. If you could right now go to Audible, Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, can you go write a review and share this episode with someone who is worried that they're being judged, is worried that they are weird, is struggling maybe to be grateful for things, whether they're kind of typical or atypical. I'm finally coming to the space in life where I know I'm not like everyone else. And you need to know you're not like anyone else. And I'm so grateful that you are you and that I am me. We need our unique gifts and selves and perspectives in this world. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you a lot. Music credit to the Belmont Club, March of the Dragonflies. And a quick legal disclaimer, this is not a use or substitute of medical advice or professional therapeutic advice. So please take this for what it is. Today, it's my personal story, but sometimes there are times that I interview other guests. So go out and have a great day.